Daniel Weekly number 40. Whee, yay! Oh, okay. I did a talk at Google last week, Wednesday. It's not online yet, so I haven't posted any links or blogged about it or anything. Hopefully it will appear any day. It was recorded and everything. It was a good talk, packed room, like 70 people in the audience and a long waiting line. Many good questions, so it was fun. Great. I just minutes ago put a blog post together about my sort of recent issues with the boringssl and openssl, making sure that curl can detect them and use them properly. So it is sort of difficult when they're both kind of diverting in their own directions. So they're removing functions and they're changing functions independently of each other, and they're sort of going ahead in their own ways. LibreSSL seemed to be the one that is actually most stable, more going like openssl used to do. I mean, used to be the same APIs and the same structs and everything. Anyway, I blogged about it. You can read the funky details in there. It's not that terribly. I mean, it's interesting if you're into these details. If you're not into the details, you can skip it. Björn, my brother, he posted a patch to the curl mailing list last week with his initial DNSSEC work using libanbound to verify the host names using DNSSEC. It is the building block or first step towards using Dane for certificate checks for servers. That means that you would get the server cert. You would verify the server cert against a cert that you extract from the DNS instead of getting it from a CR cert bundle. Another way, it is sort of sidestepping away from the CA system for TLS. That's I think Bjorn has made that as a first step towards DNSSEC, and I'm not sure that he's gonna push forward very strong on that, and it's not complete. So hopefully someone who's interested can grab that and run with it. So far the response has been exactly like that, complete silence and not a comment on that. Not from me either. I haven't really been able to keep up with that. Last week or so, the last couple of days, few days, I've been converting from the man page for libcurl called for the function curl easy get info, which is a function call that you can call after transfer to extract data from a previous transfer, like how big it was, some timings and authentications and all sorts of things. That was a rather big man page, and I'm converting each option, each little info bit you can extract into its own separate man page, like I did before with the curl easy setup and curl multi setup. So now I'm doing this for a third page to split it up, and I think I'm at like 25 new man pages so far, and which makes the total number of man pages quite insane. We're at I believe we're at 223 man pages in the curl project right now, and I'm not done with this conversion. There are more. I think I converted about half of them. It's kind of a boring work. I have a template to do it, so I can just load a template, insert stuff and blah 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 and copy and paste, but I have to kind of proofread it and make sure that it looks right and so on. The big benefit with converting them to their own man pages is that suddenly you're not hampered by the format of one page having a lot of options, because then you can't be that verbose. But when you have a single page for a single option, you can be verbose and explain a lot and examples and comparisons with the others. And in general, I think that's much better for users. And it makes a really good point on the website to link to and find with Google and everything else. So in general, it is better, even if it's tedious and boring work to do the actual conversion. But in the long run, we're all going to be happier people. I got Was it this week? Yeah, I think so. I got another translation for HTTP2 explained, which I think is awesome. Spanish this time. So now we have HTTP2 explained. Of course, my original one in English that I still haven't updated, but I have that's sort of on my to-do list. And we have it in French, we have it in Spanish, we have it in Russian, we have it in Chinese. So that's awesome. More and more people can actually read it and understand it in their own native languages. And if you want to translate it to another language that you know and speak and manage, so go ahead. It is there in Git, and tell me how you're doing. I updated my blog, I updated WordPress and the theme, and added some plugins and cleaned it up and made it look different, and sort of just refreshed everything. All the old content is still there, and all the old users and everything, so it's just refreshed. All new, looks more polished, and especially it's much better on if you ever read my blog on a mobile or a smaller screen, because now it's actually adjusting properly. It was long overdue. I've been wanting to do that for ages, and I feel very good about finally having crossed that out from my to-do list. No more bad conscience about that. I have so many of those bad consciences, so it feels good to just cut one of those off. I blogged about they claim to be the first CDN using HTTP2, CDN77, never heard of them before, but they did that sort of marketing stunt, and they've been advertising that. I have seen it on Twitter a lot of times, and all over the place. So I was in contact with the guys there, and I asked them questions, and I told me all about it, and they were kind of eager to just be seen in the wild anyway. So I think they saw it as a great marketing thing. I saw it as a interesting to see that they're actually grabbing Nginx alpha patch, and they're running with it in production, and that's I got several friends who actually asked me or discussed that offline, that this seems to be a rather bold move to just for the marketing doing it running with an alpha patch. But I asked that to these guys, and they seemed pretty confident that it runs fine, and they did a lot of testing and load testing and everything, so they were pretty satisfied with the results. So I think that is tells something about the patch, that it seems to be of pretty good quality and everything. So they're running with it. I blogged about it, and I think perhaps the most curious is that they reported a very low fraction of users that are actually using HTTP2 out of their users. I'm not exactly sure why. They said 1.5% or 2%, which is way lower than I would have expected. I'm working on a blog post with updated HTTP2 adoption rate numbers, really, and Firefox 40, which is the current stable Firefox, it has right now in the telemetry system, it says 13% HTTP2 out of all HTTP responses. Out of those that are participating in the gathering of data, which is not all the users, so it's a rough number, but 13%, that's way much higher than 2%. I'm also kind of no, I'll say that for my blog post. I posted a question to the curl users mailing list about the command line tool, about this little issue that is really nagging me from time to time, and I've this sort of a sensitive little thing that I think that people all over the internet really are using the curl-X option far too much, and usually superfluously. In vain. They don't really need to use it. If you use curl-D blah 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 to send a post, you don't need $X post as well. Or rather, I would say that you should not use it that way, because it's misleading, and you'll trick your users into using that option when they don't need to. So I think that is bad. So I'm suggesting to add a warning to the curl output if you use the $X option and setting a method that you're using already, like doing $X get when you're just getting a URL, because using uppercase X get is completely pointless when you're doing a get anyway. I wouldn't say that people are with me across the board. So yeah, I think it's pretty much 50-50. We are 50% for that option, or for the warning, and there's about 50% against the option. Or people have suggested that I would only do the warning if we do the verbose mode or something else. I also think maybe warning is a bit too harsh, because it's not really absolutely an error. It's more like a hint, this is not a good idea. I haven't really decided where that goes. I think I'll just leave it for now and just ponder about it a little bit more and see where we're going. Before I get into the options of the week for curl, I wanted to mention that in Firefox, I'm working on this bug 119.1253, which is about, I think I mentioned that last week, that I had these problems when I enabled the network change detection for Linux, that on some systems I get a lot of network changes, and it turns out to be that I get routing table updates for IPv6, where it says that sorry. That's great one, right? That shows you that I don't edit anything of this video. That it shows that we're getting routing table updates for IPv6 where I get a link local address as a gateway address. And we can get those fairly often, but in this aspect we don't really care about them. So for me it was a matter of finding that out so that I can ignore those changes. They're not really network changes that we care about, so we don't have to signal that internally in Firefox. And once I fixed that, the problem is really gone. But that also then made it obviously apparent to me that if we do get legitimate network changes quite often, we have a problem with that within Firefox. So, and it turns out if I then kind of force-fed network changes, I just fake network changes, one network change every 100 milliseconds, I can see that we can handle that properly. And that turns out to be that, because when we get a network change event, so the network has changed, then I go through all the connections, like all the HTTP connections that Firefox has, and it says, it sees, I have these different kinds of connections. And for instance, if I have an HTTP2 connection, like YouTube or other Google resources today, I'll just send an HTTP2 ping on the connection. I'll just see. If I don't get a ping back, we know that the connection is dead. If we get a ping back, we know that the connection is alive. Excellent. So I can do that, right? But if I get another network change event in another 100 milliseconds, I send another ping, and another ping. And it turns out that Google and probably other HTTP2 servers, they don't like that. They take that as some kind of denial of service attempt or some sort of anomaly, so they shut the connection down. So at the third ping, actually. So if I do that, ping, network change, connection dead. So of course that'll hamper the browsing experience really too much, since especially when I do that non-stop, I get a lot of closed connections. Of course, I can also use the connections, so they won't shut all the connections, but so now I need some heuristics to make sure that I don't send that many pings. I'm working on it. I also work on I'm gonna do some coalescing of collecting many network events, triggers from the operating system, so that I only send one network change event within Firefox, so that there would be less risk of this. And I need to handle many events in a short period of time anyway, because you can basically, if you would if you have Wi-Fi enabled and you would insert your cable and reject it and kind of in out, you would probably get a lot of different network change events. I mean, that are true network change events. So I still need to somehow handle the case that I can't torture the connections with a lot of pings, because then they'll shut me down. that's it. I'm wanting to switch to mention the curl option of the week to mention. I'm running late always, so I'm going to keep it short. But today I wanted to mention an old great option called --retry. --retry basically checks if the operation you wanted to do fail on a transient error. That means kind of an error that probably is not there forever. It might go away. It's a server side. It doesn't work right now. Try again later. Error. That means for HTTP that is a 500 series error, and for FTP it's a 400 error. And basically, if one of those occur, with the --retry option makes that curl will just try again. And of course, there are some retry. You set a number with the retry. You can retry 10 times or whatever, 5 times. So it'll just retry 5 times if it gets the transient error back. And you can then also use the accompanying options called the retry-delay, which can insert a delay between the retry so that you don't just hammer it again. So if you get a transient error, you can wait 20 seconds or whatever. You can also use it, I think there's a there's a 0, so you can make it use the default one. And of course you can set a maximum time for the retry, so that if it has been retrying for this period of time, stop retrying, it just failed. Fancy things to do, to use if you're writing scripts to do anything in your nightly scripts or whatever. You can add retry to if it happens. Bug of the week. I don't have any spectacular bug really this week, so I just went through and noticed one that caused me some headaches and confusions. And it turns out that I have a user who's using both HTTP 1.1 and HTTP 2 with a curl application, and in the HTTP, rather in their application code, they're setting the connection : header in HTTP. So I don't remember exactly why, the send connection : keep alive or whatever. They want to have this extra header. It really isn't necessary in standard HTTP 1.1 either, but it doesn't harm anything either, and it might work better with some stupid servers. So they added that header. But if we do that over HTTP 2, curl will also add that header in the HTTP 2 case, because it'll just convert it in the HTTP 2 case to HTTP 2 header, and it'll send it. And it turns out that that's stupid, because it's disallowed in the HTTP 2 spec. We're not allowed to send connection headers in HTTP 2. So a really strict server, as the NG-HTTP 2 server is, in this case at least, it says protocol. I don't remember exactly what it says, but it says, "Blah, we don't like this, go away." So, interesting little tidbit. I haven't fixed that yet. That's issue 401 in the GitHub bug tracker. I think it's fairly easy. I just haven't gotten around to it. There's been other issues and converting man pages for me to do. So fun. And this week I'm going to keep it shorter than 20 minutes. So I'm done for now. I have more stuff to tell you next week. Do ask me things if you think I should mention something or explain something, or shut up more, or make it shorter or more frequent, or whatever. We're having kind of a fewer viewers than ever of this video series, so I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong or right or whatever. It doesn't really matter. See you in a week or so. Bye.